The Galapagos Islands, I'm sure you all know it, is a tiny collection of islands about 1,000 kilometres off the coast of South America, out there in the Pacific Ocean. Alone, for millions of years, these islands remained untouched by humans, which made them the perfect place for my mate Charles Darwin to study the wildlife, research that eventually led to his theory of evolution. There is no better example of where animals have adapted to their environments over thousands and thousands of generations than the Galapagos Islands. Today, you're going to take on the role as a Galapagos researcher. I'm a little bit jealous actually. You're going to be studying one creature, one species found on the island and explore how it adapts to its environment. Before I get into the specifics of what you will need to do, I want to tell you about Lonesome George. Lonesome George was a very famous Pinta Island tortoise, and sadly, he was the last of his species. He was a tortoise, but because his island had no predators, over time his ancestors grew bigger and bigger, and slower. You can see his shell is the shape of a saddle, which allowed his neck to stretch up and reach and eat tree cacti. Other tortoises have dome-shaped shells. Pinta tortoises also use this saddle shell adaptation when two tortoises would get into a disagreement. Whichever tortoise could reach its head higher than the other won the argument. These tortoises also had a very slow metabolism, which means they didn't have to eat or drink very much at all, because they could conserve their energy. Some Galapagos Island tortoises could even survive a whole year without eating or drinking. You may well be thinking, if there were no predators, then how come they became endangered and then eventually extinct? Well, they were pretty easy to catch when humans eventually discovered the islands around 500 years ago. It's very sad, but an important lesson to be learned. So, what you need to do is choose any species or animal from the Galapagos Islands and complete these tasks. Research. Look up some of the interesting animals from the Galapagos and pick one. Take notes as you research. Remember to use a range of sources, watch videos, read articles. Just don't head to Wikipedia for all of your research. Next, sketch. Draw your animal in your book or on a piece of paper as scientific as possible. Label each part of its body. Don't just do a rush sketch. That's not very scientific. Next, you need to describe in around 100 words the behavioural adaptations that help your animal to survive. Then you can identify the structural adaptations that enable this behaviour. There are also some other questions in the daily to-do list that you can answer after that. I can't wait to see what your research shows.